Welcome back. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a story time. I wanted to talk about a girl named Edith. Edith and her husband got married, they had children, and they found what they felt like was home. As with any place that any of us live, it's not perfect. There's problems. Sometimes big problems. But they found a place that they felt home in, that they loved, despite its problems. So, Edith and her husband, they had children, they raised their families here in their hometown, and one day, they have some visitors. And these visitors say, hey, guess what? We're going to have to evacuate you. I'm sure that they were upset about having to leave their home. But what choice did they have? There was a natural disaster coming. They had to leave. So they do. They don't really fight it. I'm sure they may have had one or two things to say about it, but they don't really fight it. They obey orders. They leave. They decide to go early morning, find somewhere new to live. They leave. And they feel like they're in safety. But she's leaving the place where she has memories. She's leaving the place where she raised her two little girls. She's leaving the place that she's made her home with her husband. And so Edith turns around. One last time, she wants to say goodbye to this city. She wants to say goodbye to her home. But when she turns around to look, it kills her. Most of us who've been in the church world have heard this story. We may not have known her name because history forgot her name. Edith was married to a man named Lot. Lot was Abraham's nephew. Her name's not mentioned in the Bible. From what I can understand and from what I found, the Jewish culture still refers to her as Ado, which is the Hebrew translation of what the American name Edith would be. Edith and her husband Lot and their two children lived in Sodom. And as we all know, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. Now, not to get into the reasons, there's a lot of biblical debate right now about why the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. For the purpose of this story time, I just want to leave it at the cities were destroyed. There was a lot of things happening. There was a lot of crime happening. But I think a lot of times we forget that Lot's family just had to leave. They had to leave the place where they'd made memories. They had to leave the place that their friends were. And yeah, there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of crime, but it was still their home. There's a lot of crime in my current city, but it's still my home. There's a lot of crime where I grew up. But that's still home. I can still go back. I can still go see my family. I can still go see the people that I went to school with. I can go the places that I have memories at. But we forget that those things were taken away from Edith and Lot and their daughters. They weren't given a lot of notice. And they understood the reason they had to leave. They accepted the reason that they had to leave. But that didn't make it easier. They still felt like they had to go. They still had to go. In Genesis chapter 19, verse 16, it says, "When he hesitated, the men grabbed his hands and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them." Did anybody else catch that? He. When he hesitated. Lot wasn't any more excited about leaving than anybody else in the family. But we don't talk about him. We talk about his wife. We talk about the woman who set up this household, who decorated it, made it feel like home, fixed meals there. That's who we talk about not wanting to leave. We don't talk about the husband that wanted to leave, didn't want to leave. And then going on down, Genesis chapter 19, verse 26, we see they made it to safety. They were okay. They were clear. They were in the clear. But she was still leaving her home. And so she turned around and she looked back one more time when I'm sure she knew she probably shouldn't. It wasn't really a place to long for or really want to spend too much time in. Remember, the night before, people were trying to break down their doors. And her husband had just offered their 2 daughters up to the mob at their door to be raped. So this isn't exactly a place where you want to hang around. But I can still understand why she had some sentimental value there. Why she would turn around to get one last look at her home. She was told not to look back. She was told what was going to happen. I can't even imagine the inner dialogue that Edith was experiencing at that point. But at some point, yeah, she was disobedient. Edith was absolutely disobedient. But aren't we all at times? Unfortunately, there's times that we're all told no. There's times that we're all told not to do something. Don't we all find ourselves in terrible situations when we were told, we were warned, but we did it anyway? It cost her her life. And it cost her husband a wife. It cost her children their mother. It was a terrible decision. And unfortunately, she serves as an example to what can happen when we disobey. But sometimes, even though it's hard to walk away, and even though it hurts to walk away from our past, sometimes that's just what we have to do. Sometimes we just have to let go of things that have happened. We have to let go of places that we feel like are our home. Places where we grew up. Places with people who, even if they weren't really family, we considered them family. Sometimes we have to walk away from places where family is. It's not easy. But sometimes that's just not where we're meant to be at that point in our life. Sometimes people and places have served their point for us and their purpose for us. Sometimes we just need to let that go. And not look back. As hard as it can be, I absolutely know how hard it can be to have to leave a place that you've considered your home, to have to leave a place where you have made so many memories. To have to leave a place of people who you desperately love with your entire being. But I also know what it's like to look back to those places and to become salty about the circumstances that ended up there. And I know what it's like to hold grudges against the people there. I know what it's like to get mad every time you think about it, or to have that hurt all over again when you think about those places that you loved so much that you now have to leave. And you don't really understand why. You were given somewhat of a reason, but you don't really and truly understand why. But if we keep looking back and we allow that to make us salty, just like Edith, we may miss out on what God has for us. We could miss out on a really awesome place. I can kind of understand Edith. I understand why she looked back. I can't blame her for looking back and make an example out of her for looking back. But at the same time, I can learn from her. I can learn that when God moves us out of a situation, we can look back and get salty and angry and blame other people, blame God for removing us from that situation. Or we can just keep moving forward. Don't look back. Make new memories. Make new plans. Make new friends. New family. Sometimes we're all still like Edith. We still look back. I believe that Edith tried, y'all. But unfortunately, she made a grave decision in just looking back and clinging to her past, even if it did feel like home.